When you think of the 1990s, you may think of grunge music, the Spice Girls, or even NSYNC, but there was much more than that. Sure, music was important, but so was fashion, and shoes were no exception. For those that lived in the decade, it's something that you will always cherish. But some of those shoes have been forgotten about over time. In this video, we will have a look back at some of the cool 90s shoes we all wanted. Perhaps no other shoe defined the 90s better than combat boots. It was the essential anti-establishment footwear for anyone that was into punk or grunge music. Eventually, they would be popular for just about anyone. Some people wore actual combat boots like GIs were issued, but it was the Doc Martens brand that really hit it big. They were most commonly worn in the color black, but they also came in other colors. Brown was the second most popular color behind black. Doc Martens had a low-profile option that was also pretty popular. When you see Doc Martens, they are instantly recognizable. They have yellow stitching and air-cushioned soles. These shoes were both durable and stylish. They were also the type of shoe that could be worn with anything from dresses to jeans. Another type of boot that many people wanted during the decade were the Timberland boots, or Tims as they were affectionately called. The most popular style was the wheat-colored leather. Their sturdy sole made them perfect for both urban and outdoor adventures. Not only were they durable, but they were also very comfortable. Tims were extremely popular throughout the hip-hop community, but outdoor enthusiasts enjoyed them as well. If you didn't have Timberlands, then you might have had the Dickies that came in the exact same wheat color. Almost every young woman or girl in the 90s seemed to have this exact style of shoe. There were many knockoff brands, but the main brand was Steve Madden, and they were called slinky sandals. They were a type of platform sole, and they became an essential item for any wardrobe. Their minimalistic design made them perfect for pairing up with jeans or nice dresses. They were both stylish and practical footwear. Air Jordans may have originally came out in the 1980s, but their popularity continued well into the 90s. Whether you had the Jordan 5s in 1990, Jordan 14s in 1999, or one of the ones in between, you were definitely cool if you had a pair. Each version that came out was completely different, and that added to the continual appeal. Yes, Jordans are just as popular as ever, but when is the last time that you've seen some like these? New Balance running shoes became extremely popular to wear during the 1990s. For some reason, they spread like wildfire with both runners and non-runners. There were several different versions, but the most desired color was gray, like this New Balance M574 for instance, which came out in 1990. That enormous N on the side told everyone what you were rocking. Before Grant Hill had some career-interrupting injuries, he was originally just as big of a star as Michael Jordan. The Fila Grant Hill 2 came out in 1995, and it was one that many people wanted. They were different than anything else out on the market. Grant signed with Fila for a crazy amount of money, which was $80 million, just to be the face of the Italian brand. In total, there were 5 of his signature models, but it was the 2s in 1995 that people seemed to want most. They featured a Velcro strap that went across the back. If Grant's performance on the court was not enough to persuade you to buy a pair, then maybe Tupac Shakur wearing a pair was. Basketball shoes were extremely popular in the 1990s, and it seemed like every player dreamed of having their own brand. Shaquille O'Neal had a deal with Reebok, and in 1993 they released a Hypnotic design called Shaqnosis. When Shaq wore these on the court, they stood out just like his height and his dominant performance. So when you saw someone wearing these in public, you knew they were Shaq's. There was no Dunkman logo needed. Adidas also tried to get in on the basketball shoe trend with the Mutombos that came out in 1992. In the early 90s, no one was holding down the middle like Dikembe Mutombo was for the Nuggets. These shoes celebrated his African heritage, and the 55 as well as the M-Shield logo stood out. It was really different from any other basketball sneaker. Another popular sneaker that Adidas had was the KB8s that were released in 1997. These were the first kicks that were branded with Kobe Bryant's name. Well, his initials anyway. Kobe was starting to draw attention just like Jordan had, and the stripes on the side told everyone that he was wearing Adidas. Some of these basketball shoes really floated off the store shelves, but they weren't the only popular shoes. How about these floaty sugar shoes? They were sort of a new spin on a classic flip-flop. And yes, they did sort of look like a boat float that you might have had your keys on. Believe it or not, these were popular as everyday fashion in the summer. Maybe you wore them to the lake, or perhaps you just wore them with your robe around the house. Slides were another popular type of sandal in the 90s that everyone wanted. Nike had some, but it was the Adidas brand that everyone seemed to want most. These became popular with anyone in athletics as they changed out of their court or field shoes. But these were also popular for everyday wear. The original black Adidas Sambas saw a lot of action in the mid-90s. Usually these shoes would fade quickly, but that did not stop anyone from wearing them with their favorite jean shorts. If you were into the skate culture, then maybe you had a pair of Vans half-cab shoes which came out in 1992. These shoes were very durable and the grip on the bottom was perfect for any kick flip. If you did not have Vans, then maybe you had a pair of Airwalks. They were really popular with the skater culture and they were quite a bit different than Vans. A couple other skater shoes that are worth mentioning are the Simple OS Sneaker Casual Shoe and the NT Sal 23, which were also decently popular in the mid-90s. The 90s is when the platform type of shoes of the 70s came back into style. And really it didn't matter if it was a sandal or some type of Mary Jane styled shoe. If it had a platform, then it was popular. Think of the Spice Girls in the 90s. Most of what they wore was some sort of platform shoe. Heck, there were even platform boots and sneakers. Anything that made women feel taller was definitely going to be a hit. Do you remember the sponge flip-flops? Why anyone thought that this would ever be a good idea is beyond me. Supposedly, they were comfortable, but in reality, they made weird noises when they were worn, and moisture collected in the bottom, which could make for some bad-smelling shoes. However, they were quite popular at one time during the 1990s. Puma came out with the suede classic shoes in a variety of colors, and they were very popular in the 90s. These kicks appealed to anyone who was listening to hip-hop or even Megadeth. They were the perfect shoe to accent with your tracksuit or wide-leg jeans. But the suede shoes were not the only popular shoes from Puma. In 1991, Puma launched the Disc System, which was the first laceless sports shoe. They had a system of internal wires that tightened the upper part for a perfect fit. They were revolutionary for the time, but when is the last time that you've seen someone wearing a pair? The 1990s was full of style. Some of it may have been from past decades, but there were plenty of new items. There were a lot of different shoes, and it was probably impossible for you to have them all. Likewise, it's impossible for us to cover them all in one short video. What were your go-to shoes in the 90s, and what would you like to see us cover in the next shoes video? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.